The Children's Online Privacy Protection Act, or COPPA, is probably a policy that most content creators on the platform haven't heard of, despite it being around since 1998. And it's coming into the vision of YouTubers because of a new policy that YouTube is rolling out to comply with the act for 2020. And this really has a lot of people on edge, and while each case is specific, hopefully I can provide you with a clearer understanding of this complicated issue and why you might want to start paying attention. So why are people freaking out? Well, YouTube just rolled out some new features asking creators to label their videos for kids or not for kids. And while it seems pretty straightforward for most people, it has a lot of people freaking out. People like Pixel Dan, Arlo, and Chadtronic have a grayer content area when it comes to this new feature, and on top of telling YouTube what kind of audience you're targeting, YouTube will help you out by rolling out machine learning to determine if these videos are for kids or not. So what is COPPA? COPPA is the Children's Online Privacy Protection Act, and what that means is that if you are a website that serves content to the United States, you are not allowed to collect personal information of children under the age of 13, regardless of whether those children reside in the United States or not. Most sites that collect data on you, like Facebook, Twitter, and Google, have a disclaimer stating that you must be 13 years of older to get an account. If you aren't 13, then you aren't allowed to have an account unless you have the express permission of your parent or legal guardian. In 2013, the FTC revised COPPA to include how a website tracks your habits if you're under 13. Up until this rule change, COPPA just meant websites couldn't ask for kids' personal information like your address or your phone number. And it's important to note that there aren't any real COPPA changes for 2020, and this is strictly YouTube playing catch up for a violation of that rule that has been in effect since 2013. So with that out of the way, it might seem like as long as you're not tracking any data for kids, you're in the clear and there's nothing to be worried about, and Pixel Dan and Chadtronic are just freaking out about nothing. However, according to FTC Chairman Joseph Simmons, creators will be held liable for making kid-directed content and not flagging it correctly. And I quote this from his statement made on the YouTube ruling. For those who create children-directed content to upload to YouTube, the message from today's case is that the FTC considers these individual videos and channels to be websites or online services directed to children under COPPA. Once the order has been effective for a period of time, the Commission will conduct a sweep of YouTube's platform to determine whether children-directed content is being properly designated to ensure that these channels are complying with COPPA. If you have a channel on YouTube, you are now considered liable for making sure that your videos are COPPA compliant. If you do not label your videos correctly, you will be subject to a fine from the FTC. And the reason for this is that for a very long time, YouTube has been collecting data on children under the age of 13, and the FTC has been coming down hard on these companies that have been skirting compliance for quite some time. TikTok was fined $5.7 million in February, and YouTube was fined $170 million for COPPA violations, including tracking viewing history of minors to create targeted ads. Despite only allowing people 13 years or older to make an account, the FTC alleged that Google knew children were watching because they promised Mattel that it could help the company reach children as young as 6 years old on the platform. In addition to the fine, YouTube also agreed to stop allowing targeted ads on videos aimed at children and work to create more guidelines on corralling children into the YouTube Kids app. And all of these rules go into effect on January 1st, 2020. So what that means is that YouTube now requires every single creator to check their videos as for kids or not for kids. And there's very little guidelines on what's for kids and what's not. And the only criteria that YouTube has really provided is a video is made for the kids that has an emphasis on the following: children or children's characters, popular children's programming or animated characters, play acting or stories using children's toys, child protagonists engaging in common natural play patterns such as play acting and or imaginative play, popular children's songs, stories, or poems. And so if the video is flagged as made for kids, then YouTube will stop serving personalized ads on that content, and features like comments, likes, dislikes, and subscriptions will be disabled on those videos, and viewers will have very minimal ways to engage in the video and even try to find it. So if you make videos towards kids, your channel is essentially done monetarily. If you're someone who does this for a living, it's time to consider other avenues of content creation. And if you're someone like Chadtronic or Pixel Dan, it's a really great area when it shouldn't be. Pixel Dan's content is focused on vintage toys and is aimed at older collectors of said toys. He gives a history of the toy and other information that wouldn't be aimed at children, and children might stumble upon his video because he talks about Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, but because of this, YouTube has flagged a majority of his videos as being aimed as kids, and as such, Pixel Dan's revenue is subject to some major cuts, even though his videos don't really have an emphasis on the aforementioned criteria. Same thing goes with Chadtronic. He reviews toys, and while his personality is that of a man-child, his videos are geared towards adults, even though he talks about Build-A-Bear and Beyblades. However, Chad has been hit the hardest, and in the videos that he's done about Coppa, none of them mention that for a period of time, Chadtronic's channel was under intense scrutiny by YouTube, including turning off his comments and subjecting every video that he uploaded to a personal review before he could even publish it. YouTube didn't give any real specifics as to why his channel was singled out, and it's not clear that it was related to Coppa, but you can imagine that these new Coppa policies that YouTube is rolling out gave him a legitimate concern for the future of his channel and other channels like his. So you might be thinking to yourself, well, I don't make content for kids, so my channel is safe, right? Well, if it's super clear that your videos are meant for people 13 years and older, then there's really no problem. Auto and travel blogs I'm sure will be safe, but those channels who do 3 AM challenges are boned, and I would assume those will be the first to actually flag their content incorrectly and get dinged by the FTC. But if your content is on the border, it gets more complicated, and the issue goes beyond just monetary restrictions from YouTube. If the FTC determines that your video is improperly flagged, the FTC has said that they will seek penalties from individual creators in the amount of up to $42,000 per video, and that's life-altering money, especially if you made a couple hundred videos. Keep in mind that Coppa isn't a new thing. It's been around since 1998, and the rules applying to YouTube now have been in effect since 2013. So that means that every single video that you've uploaded to YouTube from that time are subject to FTC regulations now. And when you combine these steep fines with the fact that it's not really clear on what the FTC will consider a kid's video, you can see why creators who pump out content are worried that they'll have to fight the FTC to see if they'll set a precedent based on the content. And fighting the government is a very expensive battle. But Coppa is about collecting data on kids under 13, and I don't collect that data on those kids, so I'm good, right? Well, so here's the issue with using YouTube to upload your content. YouTube serves ads depending on the content that you're watching, meaning if I watch a video about legal advice, I'll probably get an ad from a lawyer in my area. If I watch a video that's about video games, then I'll probably get an ad for Google Stadia. It's how advertisers advertise, and the internet has been a boon for advertising. You can narrow it down to the street you live on or the car that you drive, and that means that kids' content will have advertisements specifically directed towards their individual tastes, and they shouldn't have according to Coppa. And that may seem like the same as TV, but while you see a targeted ad, it's not a personalized ad. When you change the channel, your profile doesn't follow you like it does on the internet, and that's why it's so important to make sure that your video is properly tagged. YouTube told FTC that there is no kids content on general YouTube app, and that's a lie, and they're paying for it now, and creators are suffering the consequences. The kids content should only have been on YouTube Kids and not the general app, and instead it was on both. And YouTube has pled ignorance in an attempt to skirt the FTC's guidelines, and now they're paying the price. And what really stings about this is that there's a lot of gray areas where YouTube and the FTC refuse to make clarifications on. My channel, for example, covers a variety of topics in relation to video games. My series Retronomics, which goes over video game price trends, isn't aimed at kids under the age of 13, and neither are my other videos. But does the FTC think the same way? Will they only go after blatantly mislabeled videos like those featuring Peppa Pig in adult situations? Would I be willing to bet $42,000 per video on that? Well, probably, at least until a larger creator who has similar content gets dinged. So how can we fight this? Well, there are 3 ways that you can make sure that your voice is heard. The FTC is currently accepting comments on their official site, so be civil and tell them that they need to clarify the requirements to remain compliant and outline what really is kid-directed content. I don't have an issue with Coppa as a whole, but I should have clear guidelines as to what is considered kids content and what is not. You can also sign a change.org petition, and you can just share this video or any others that you come across. And I'll leave links in the description below. And so I'm going to wrap that video up here, and hopefully that clears some things up for people. I don't usually make topical videos like this, but there's a lot of conflicting information about whether or not you should care about these new rules and just flag everything as not for kids and be done with it. But you really should take the time to evaluate your channel's content and understand that just pleading ignorance on this probably won't save you if the FTC starts sending fines your way. So thanks so much for watching. Leave a like on this video, it'll help it grow. And I'm Super Nintendo, and I'll see you next time.